These are the familiar scenes from what feels like just about every F1 race. The winner coming to the checkered flag to salute their crew on a big win. No competitors in sight, and they almost have enough time to slow down to look each and every one of their crew members dead in the eye to thank them for all their hard work. But where's the drama? Where's the excitement? These are finishes from 3 different dirt tracks on the same night just this weekend.
Here comes Brian Brown. White flag down the backstreet for the final time. They're side by side for the lead of the championship. To the bottom. Reitzel slides up across. Brown will turn the car off of turn 4. It'll be a drag race to the checkers. Who's it going to be? Brian Brown gets him at the line.
Hudson O'Neal has one more shot. It's the final lap here at Cedar Lake. Down the back straightaway. Hudson O'Neal's right there in the 1. Does he have one more effort? Slide jump for the win. $50,000. Pierce hits the wall. Crowd to their feet at the line. It's going to be the smooth operator, Bobby Pierce.
Take the white flag side by side. Logan Schuchart slides Larson as he gets into the cushion. Back straight away for the final time. They'll race for the win in the Ironman 55. Kyle Larson slides Logan Schuchart. Schuchart crosses back underneath him, but Kyle Larson gets the win.
What's up, gang? My name is Rain. I'm a rookie and struggling LS1 sprint car driver, but more importantly, I'm a lifelong dirt fan, and these are 5 reasons why F1 fans and circuit track racing fans should come to a dirt track. There's been an undeniable rise of popularity in an already popular sport in F1 since the Netflix Drive to Survive series. Even as a dirt fan with next to no interest in F1, was blown away by how good it was. I thought it was going to turn me into an F1 fan, but because of my geographical location, it's often very difficult to watch it live. But to be honest, the racing itself just doesn't interest me, but my goal here is not to tell you all the things that I don't like about F1. Yet. I'm going to tell you all the things I love about dirt racing and try and convince you to come to a dirt track near you. There are only 24 tracks on the 2023 F1 calendar. Chances are those tracks are nowhere near your city, your state, potentially even your country. There are thousands of dirt tracks across the globe, mainly in the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, where local heroes and touring series battle it out for the top step weekly. So already your opportunities to watch racing increase tenfold. Local tracks will have general admission tickets and tiered seating systems, and also the ability to purchase a pit pass. Your pit pass will generally give you access to the pits from when the gates first open in the afternoon to when the last trailer leaves the lot. While you're in the pits, you have an opportunity to check out the cars up close and personal without any barriers, chat to drivers and crew members, purchase merchandise, and chat with other fans that are walking around the pits. There are very little rules when it comes to a dirt track, but it is a hot zone with active cars, so be cautious, look for signage, watch your children, and have your head on a swivel. Your opportunity to get up close and personal with drivers and cars is unmatched. With no barriers, you have the opportunity to go and get a photo, shake their hand, have a sticky beak if you want to, and ask some questions. Just a couple of weekends ago, a few friends of mine who live in Washington in the US went to Skagit Speedway for the first time. They had never been to a dirt track, and one of them took their 12-year-old nephew. He got to sit in sprint cars, he got to chat with drivers, someone gave him a hat and they signed things for him. He said it was one of the coolest nights of his life. It's also not uncommon to see fans walking away with damaged wings, parts, safety equipment, things that are unusable after a crash. And let's be honest, a sideboard would look real sick in a pool room. This next part I'm going to encourage you to take with a pinch of salt. I may well have some information wrong. These are very broad subjects. Every track will have different pricing, and I'll also be talking about all of this stuff in Australian dollars, so be conscious of that. During my brief internet research, I came across Speed Cafe, who had the general admission ticket list for all of the F1 races for the 2023 season. The cheapest being the Mexico City Grand Prix at $81.60 for a 3-day general admission pass. Most expensive being the Miami Grand Prix, boasting an $855 general admission 3-day pass. This also doesn't take into account travel expenses, flights, accommodation, food and drink, car rental, Ubers, anything else you might need to actually get to the track. At this point, I actually really like to hear from F1 fans. Did you go to all 3 days? Did you go and watch qualifying? I'd really like to hear about your experience. A slightly unfair comparison, but I live 15 minutes away from the Perth Motorplex, a world-class motorsporting complex with a drag strip on one side and a speedway track on the other. The pricing for a speedway night at the Motorplex is $35 for a general admission, $45 for a silver ticket, and $55 for a gold ticket. It's also worth mentioning that the silver and gold tickets also include your pit pass. My brief internet research says that most tracks around the country and the world will charge somewhere between $20 and $35 for a general admission ticket, depending on who's on the schedule that night. If there's a touring series, for example, if the World of Outlaws come to your town, you'll see a bump in price because of the quality of racing you're about to see. So you're not traveling as far, your tickets are cheaper, you get to hang out with the drivers and their cars in the pits before and after the races. So far so good, right? It gets better. One of the best parts about having invested interest in anything, whether it be music, sport, motorsport, clubs, groups, weirdly politics now, is showing off your drip and letting anyone who's walking in front of you or behind you know that you know what's good. And no disrespect to F1, your puffer jackets and polo shirts are cool, but Speedway drip is untouchable. My Speedway shirt and hoodie collection is probably some 40-50 pieces deep, which is paltry compared to lifelong fans who make it a point to go and collect shirts and spend their lifetime collecting these badass pieces of merchandise. Look at some of these designs. Look at this, and 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 this. Objectively, these are badass, and they will catch the eye of whoever's walking behind you. There's also hats, die-cast cars, miniature wing panels, stubby holders, bags, pillowcases, anything you can think of. Now this reason is brief, but scoping out people's shirts when I'm walking around the track is one of my favorite parts about being at a show and one of my favorite parts about Speedway culture. Now is the moment that I have to express what I don't like about Formula One. When I reached out to my fellow dirt nerds about their opinions on Formula One, the consensus was the same. There's very little passing or overtaking. I've since found out it's called in Formula One. There's very little action past the first lap. There's more passing done in the pits than on the actual track itself. And if you're watching it live, you're waiting huge gaps of time to see a car go past you again. I've also formed the opinion that Formula One has a bit of an image problem in that it appears to the outsider to be a very exclusionary and elitist sport. I'm not going to get into that too much because I feel like that's more perception than anything else, but it's worth noting. But setting that aside, I'm going to address some of these other things. In my limited viewing of Formula One racing, one of two things is going to happen on the first lap. Your driver is either going to find their place in the running order plus minus 1 or 2 spots, or they're going to crash. I can't imagine how infuriating it would be to potentially spend thousands of dollars to go to one of these races only to have your driver maybe not even reach the part of the track that you're sitting at. Passing or overtaking is on the decline, much to the dismay of fans across the board and to the detriment of the sport itself. Once cars have found their place by lap 1 or 2, that's generally where they stay. That's not to say this is what happens every single race, but from what I've seen and what I've read, most of the battling comes at the middle or the back of the pack because the leaders are either too far away from the field or not willing to potentially damage their cars and end their race in an attempt to gain a spot. During this season and last, I have had some friends attend the Australian GP and the Miami GP, and from what I saw in their Instagram stories and other posts, the cars appear and disappear just as quickly. I'm guessing they have TVs set up all over the place to try and show what's going on the rest of the track. I'm honestly not sure. And then there's the finishes. To a diehard F1 fan, I'm sure it would be super exciting to see their favorite driver on their favorite team come down the straight to take the checkered flag. But if I have my information correct, and it may well be wrong, of the top 10 closest finishes in Formula One history, to get the most recent one, you have to go back to 2002. Even when you put in close F1 finishes into a YouTube search bar, there's not that much to show. It points you more in the direction of dramatic finishes where a leading car breaks or breaks down during the final lap of a race. Or it'll point you in the direction of the 2021 Abu Dhabi season finale, much to the dismay, I imagine, of Mercedes fans everywhere. At any given dirt track, you can find street stocks, production sedans, modifieds, micros, midgets, or speed cars as we call them in Australia, and then usually the marquee event in either the late models or the sprint cars. And even within all of those classes I just mentioned, there is divisions within them based on budget and skill level. I guarantee that I missed some, and I don't have the time to go into all of them because it would spend far too much time and I'd admit myself look stupid by trying to list them all. I don't have time to go into all of them, but if you do want a really great in-depth video of what a sprint car is, check out the video in my description by one of my favorite YouTube channels, Slap Shoes, about what a sprint car is. At the top of these divisions, you have the Touring Series. So for the sprint cars, you have the World of Outlaws and the All-Star Circuit of Champions. the Case Construction Late Model Series, Extreme Outlaw Midget Series, the Super Dirt Car Series for the modifieds, the USAC for the non-wing sprint cars, the list goes on. And below that, you have your regional and track championships, where lower tiered racers and budget weekend warriors will battle it out for those championships. Dirt oval tracks vary in shape and size roughly from 1/4 mile to in or around half mile in length, with varying degrees of banking in the corners, giving the cars the opportunity to either run the top line and carry their momentum around the corners, or cut down the distance by running the bottom. But a dirt track is ever changing and will change throughout the night, forcing drivers to change their lines constantly depending on where the grip might be. Generally speaking, but not always the case, cars will run their hot laps around the bottom to middle part of the track to cut down the distance while the track is greasy and to dry it off and create some grip. But as more tires go over it, the track will dry out completely and become slick. This forces drivers to go and look for grip in higher or different parts of the track. Generally, the slick part of the track will be from about 1 car length off of the bottom to 1 car length off of the top, creating 2 racing lines. The bottom line requires a lot more finesse, a lot of throttle control, and a lot of braking to make sure that while you are cutting the distance, you are getting a good amount of drive on your exit. While at the top of the track, the loose dirt has hardened and formed a cushion, allowing the drivers to put or lean their right rear onto that hardened surface and use that as their grip and carry their momentum from entry to exit without losing speed, even though they're going further distance. Running the cushion does come with a higher risk, because if you jump the cushion or get over the cushion, you are that much closer to the wall and you've lost all the momentum that you went up there to carry. Throughout the night, drivers have to decide what part of the track to run based on how their car is handling, how the track is changing, their own abilities, and what the cars around them are doing. On the contrary to F1 and circuit racing, having someone in front of you is not an advantage. If the air is being broken in front of you, the air is not hitting your aero properly, making your car that much harder to handle. But if you're behind someone and they're in your lane and you want to pass them, you may well be forced to pull one of the most badass moves in all of motorsport.
By Dumsney, that may seal the deal. Massino to the inside one last time with a big slide job in 3 and 4 to steal the win in the last corner.
Trying to run that cutter out line, coming off turn 2. White flag coming out this time by Jake Swanson to the inside. Off turn number 4, new leader. White flag is out.
13.18.
Oh, slide job! Slide job!
Slide or die.
Just slide yourself.
Slide or die.
Yeah.
The slide job is a high-risk, high-reward dirt track maneuver that every competitive dirt track racer has to have in their repertoire. Thank God I haven't had to do one yet, they're scary. The car behind pulling the slide job will dive bomb the corner low on entry, cutting the distance, sliding up the banking in front of the other car, forcing them to brake and slow down or cross over to cut back underneath them. At this point, you have either slowed them down enough where they fall behind you, or they've crossed you over and are now underneath you heading down the straightaway, and you may well get slid back in the next corner. Slide jobs are a regular but awesome part of dirt racing. You'll see them all through the night from the first heat through to the end of the feature. One of the best things about dirt racing is the guidelines on which the cars are built to compete. Yes, there is absolutely rich and poor teams in dirt racing, but the gap is much smaller. On any given night, a tiny little open trailer can show up to a track and take down the car that showed up in the fancy hauler, and that's what keeps it interesting. A local weekend warrior could race with a touring series when it comes to their local track and potentially know how to set up their car better for that track in those conditions, giving them an advantage and potentially giving them a chance to win in one of these big series with a big purse. And that's another great thing about these touring dirt series. Local racers can run with them. As long as their cars fit the guidelines and pass tech inspection, a local driver can compete with a touring series when they come to their local track. With so many cars on such small tracks, lap traffic becomes a factor very quickly and adds to the intrigue and the drama of any given feature race. Watching the lead lap cars duck through traffic is a sight to see, and is often the determining factor based on who can navigate it the best. And keep your head on a swivel during the dirt feature, because we have what's called the Hard Charger Award for the person who came through the field and progressed the most spots. And just this weekend at the Knoxville Nationals, we saw David Gravel go from 22nd to 2nd in the A main. Dirt racing and F1 do have some things in common in that sometimes there are favorites going into any given season and any given night. Donnie Schatz has won 10 World of Outlaws series. Brad Sweet has now won 3 series in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Even here locally in my city, Jason Kendrick won 3 Maddington Toyota Sprint Cars series in a row, and then Callum Williamson took the next 2. But then in the 2022-23 season, both of those drivers went winless. You get to see your favorite driver 3 to 4 times a night, and you can see everything from where you're sitting. Formats change from track to track and night to night, but at bare minimum, you will see your driver for hot laps, qualifying, at least one heat race, and a feature. There's also potential to see them even more if the track offers a second heat race, if your driver makes it into the dash or has to come through a B main to make the feature. And if your driver crashes throughout the night, that's not a guarantee their night is over. Unless they have irreparable damage or do not have the parts to replace that they broke during a crash, you are most likely going to see your driver again if they crash early in the night, or maybe even during the feature. More than once this season during the World of Outlaws, we have seen red flags come out because a car has flipped. Teams have come together to rebuild those cars and replace the broken parts and get them back on the track ready to take the next flag. And one of the best things about dirt racing is the community inside of it. It is a common occurrence to see competing crew members come to the aid of a car that just crashed to repair and rebuild it to try and get it back onto the track to finish the race. I know this section was a bit all over the place, jumping from subject to subject at times, but I hope it gave you enough insight as to what it might be like when you go to a dirt track and hopefully entice you to go for the first time. With no disrespect intended, most Formula 1 fans are more likely to get struck by lightning than to own a Ferrari or to own a Mercedes or to get within spitting distance of one of those cars when they're at the track. Grassroots racing gives any average Joe the ability to get hands-on with the cars they love to watch. Local teams are always on the lookout for people who can help them load up their trucks, unload at the track, add fuel, check tire pressures, scrape dirt, or just go for, which is to say go for this, go for that. They can teach you about the car, they can teach you how to set it up, how to make changes, how those changes will affect the way the car drives and handles. Just being around them will teach you so much about it. I know this to be true because this is exactly my story. 10 months ago, I bought a sprint car, and I've learned more in the last 10 months than I have my entire lifetime of watching dirt racing before that. Street stocks, production sedans, outlaw karts and modifiers are just some of the ways that you can get into dirt racing at a fraction of the cost, but sprint car and late model communities across the globe are looking for ways to cut down the cost and offer entry-level ways into the sport. Look no further than the LS1 Sprint Car Club that I'm now a part of. Much like the pay-to-drive experiences of V8 supercars, there is exactly the same opportunity to do that in a sprint car. I know there's at least one company in Australia that offers this, and I'm pretty sure there's plenty of opportunities to do that in the US. It does cost a pretty penny, but well worth it if you're looking to create that memory for yourself. So there they are, my 5 reasons why F1 fans should try dirt. If you would like to come at me for all the reasons why I'm wrong about F1, please do so gently. Fellow dirt fans, find an F1 fan that you know and bring them to your local dirt track. Be a gracious host, show them a good time, teach them about the track and the cars, get them their first Speedway shirt, give them a reason to come back to the track. Make it a goal for this Speedway season to take one non-dirt fan to a track and try and turn them into a fan. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you very much, I appreciate that. Check the description of this video because I'm going to drop some links to some things that I think will be of interest to you. Namely, so first will be the Dirt Tracker YouTube channel. Justin does an amazing job of covering the major series for dirt racing and all the news that goes along with them. That is a daily show, it goes for about 10 minutes each day. It's extremely useful and insightful in keeping up with what's going on in the dirt world. I'm a member of that channel and I strongly suggest you become so as well. Thank you to Gavin Ropchan for making the thumbnail for this video. He has one of the best and most fun sim racing channels on YouTube, so please go and subscribe to his channel. If you would like to watch your dirt racing, your streaming, then you have Clay Per View for Australia. Dirt Vision has the World of Outlaws and some other great series, but they also have the rights to stream races at tracks weekly, which is an amazing thing. You can watch weekly racing at a bunch of amazing tracks. So that's Dirt Vision. Flow Racing covers the All-Star Circuit of Champions and a bunch of other series, not just dirt as well. They do oval stuff, all drag stuff as well, all kinds of great things. They're the things that come to mind first, but I'm sure I'll find links to other things that are of interest to you now. So thanks for checking it out. Appreciate it. Till next time. Bye for now.